This is Planet Band. I'm Nick Liebl. This is Kurt Kissinger.
Hello.
Behind the glass is Matt Stein. And today we're traveling to Planet Benzing.
Planet Benzing.
So
be careful. There's no return.
There's no return. No return plan.
I'd be very afraid.
And on Planet Benzing, we're going to talk to Nate Benzing, who is the beast from our east. Is that how we said it?
That works.
The beast to our east. First, it was Ventura back when you were there, right?
Yeah, I started at Ventura. It's the only job I've ever had, really. Only interview I've ever done. No, kidding. But Ventura, and now Garner Hayfield Ventura. So, job changed a little bit when we merged, but other than that, yeah.
Okay. So when did each name get added?
Well, let's see. It was Ventura from the beginning of time until like 2012 or 13, I think. Yeah. And so I was 512. Actually, for a while there, I was 712 because the band numbers got pretty big, and the administration said, "Hey, we have the money. Let's get you somebody to help out." And so I had a 5-6 band person for a while.
At Ventura?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was living the dream, So and then as the school district started kind of shrinking and stuff, that we lost that. And I went back to 512 again, which was cool, it's fine. And then, we started sharing with Garner when we saw what was coming down the pipe, as far as enrollment and things like that. The high school still had really good enrollment, but the elementary classes were just tiny. So that was the plan they came up with. We did not have a very amicable relationship with Clear Lake because of some things that had happened between the two districts. Like the prior year, it seemed to make sense to go with Clear Lake, but when I look back on it, the community of Ventura was definitely a better fit overall with Garner than it was with Clear Lake. So it worked out. I mean, and we got to keep Ventura in the name, whereas if we would have gone to Clear Lake, it would just been Clear Lake.
Yep.
Which is still a great school, but I think as far as like keeping people teaching and having that smaller school environment, that was the bonus, I think, going that way. So, that's just my personal opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
So what's been the most meaningful looking back on what? 32?
Yeah.
30.
This is your 33?
I think I'm coming in 33. Here's the deal. I lost track in there. And so like when I thought it was year 30, it turned out it was 31. So
I think that happened on my 31st birthday.
Yeah.
I thought I was turning 31,
Well,
and Abby says, "No, you're 32."
Okay.
You're like, am I now? All right. That's great.
Happy birthday to you.
Yay. Can we celebrate twice this year? Because obviously I missed one in there.
Should've done
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think this is coming into 33 for me. So, anyway, technically the last year I have to teach to be qualified for all my retirement benefits. So,
This year.
yeah. So all the rest of the years I teach, I'm doing it just because I want to, because it's just for fun.
It's a good position to be in.
It is a good position to be in. So, and I think I anticipate doing it for a while still, because I really like the direction things are going. So, I forgot what the question was, man.
This is what's been like meaningful, 33.
Oh,
looking back,
man. I would say in the big picture of what's meaningful is seeing my old students who, one, still have fond memories. It doesn't matter what their ability was. They just have fond memories of playing in the bands at Ventura and GHV. I think that's the top one. And then when I see students like going out and seeking stuff and sharing it with me that are music related, I don't think it gets much better than that, really, because now that means the thing that I love now is something that they love too. Whether they want to do it for a career or not doesn't really matter. I think the fact that it was something in their life that was like meaningful to them, and they want to continue to explore that. They want to share that with other people. They want maybe their kids to do that. I think that's probably the best part of the whole deal. So,
And I would agree with that. I have experience with that firsthand.
yeah, well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. So,
Yeah, Nate was my wife's band director, and
yeah,
her two brothers, and
yeah,
still good friends with
yeah.
his parents. And
Oh, yeah, that's true. which we didn't hang out actually until after Abby graduated, because I've got a little bit of a stickler, is like I don't get too close to families when I still have their kids. I know that's, I don't know, it's kind of weird when you think about it.
Professional distance, maybe.
It is, but particularly like, when I had all their kids and stuff, and still here comes Abby along, and I'm like, but I think we started hanging out almost right away after she graduated. Yep. So, yeah, it's all right. So, and I have some other family friends like that too. I had their kids a long time ago. And so when you move into a community and you stay there, that's kind of part of it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, take us, so 1992.
92.
Year before I was born.
Yeah.
The year after the Twins won their second World Series.
Oh, man, yeah. It's been so long.
Um,
I was listening to the Twins game on the way over here. It was at the bottom of the second inning, but they were up by 1 on the Mets. So anyway, yeah, okay.
But you walk into Ventura. What was it like? What was your diagnosis? What'd you do? What was your first time?
Oh, man, I was so out of touch of reality with what was. It was fantastic. First of all, I did not walk into a horrible situation. I walked into a very small situation, but not a horrible situation. There was a horrible situation there 3 years prior to that. Awful. Like, couldn't recognize the national anthem or the school song. Awful.
Oh.
And then Seth Preby came in, wonderful teacher. And Seth Preby came in, and he had just finished his third year of starting to get things rolling in the right direction again.
Yeah.
He didn't have much for numbers in the high school band or the 7-8 band. They weren't too bad in the 5th and 6th grade. They were like 25 per band in the 5th and the 6th grade, but like 15 or something like that in the 7-8.
Sure.
I know this specifically, 33 in the high school band. And the reason I know this is because it was August when I finally got in front of the whole band. I'd started like July 1st kind of thing, because I have a summer contract and they do a front end thing. And so I'd already been in there meeting some kids. We did a fundraiser, but the first time I got in front of them playing, it was in August. And it was just a few days before I had a home football game and a parade.
Wow.
It was like the Wednesday before a home football game and a parade. And I'd not met any of them before. And I'm like, oh, I got this music pulled out. I'm ready to go, do. And there's like 33 of them. And the last band I'd been in front of was the UNI Panther Marching Band as a drum major. And we had more trumpets in that band. There was like 225 in the band at that time. I think it's massive now. I think all the state schools are like 350 or something crazy like that. But it was like 225 in the band. And it was like, I don't even know how many trumpets. There were way more than 33, I'm sure. And here I had 33 kids total. And we read that song, and I was like, I don't even recognize what we just did there. So, so that was not so much on my predecessor. That was just on me being a first-year teacher in that very first moment. And I learned at that point to be flexible and switch gears fast. So we played the school song for the parade.
It's a good solution.
It was a great solution. But we still hammered out on that song, and we played part of that song at the football game, kind of thing. 2 days later, whatever it was, we had 3 rehearsals or something like that. And it worked out. It was a culture shock, kind of, going such a small band like that. But, man, the kids were great. Like, I still keep in touch with a lot of them, and see a lot of them. And run into them like they opened the time capsule at Ventura from the centennial. It was like a 25-year time capsule. So a bunch of them came back, and so it was like, yeah, it was fun, And 5 of them quit band at Christmas too. So
28.
It was 28. It was. It was not a rough first year. I had lots of support, but the board was questioning me a little bit, So.
But don't you think, looking back, that has to be pretty typical?
I think so.
A new director.
Oh yeah, new director. But here's
it's
the
really
deal.
hard when you're in it.
I had really good support from my principal and superintendent, and that's what saved me, because I got called in front of the board in January, and one of the board members said I was trying to turn the band into an elitist organization. An elitist organization. I was like, no, I'm not trying to turn it elitist. I just want I want them to be proud of what they're doing. That's it. Kind of thing. Well, one of the kids that quit was the board president's daughter, so, and also the first thing I did was I requested that we no longer march the 7-8 kids with the high school kids. which is something Seth had tried to do, but Seth was less aggressive than me.
Yeah.
He's more passive. And I was like, we can't be doing this. These kids need to learn. None of the clarinets could cross the break in 7th and 8th grade. And I said, these kids need to learn how to play their instruments. They do not need to be working on marching routines. And
so 7, 8 marched
with the
like
high
football
school,
games?
everything
Did they?
before I got there. Yeah. So
Okay.
and Seth had warned me about that. They had just bought new uniforms, like his first year there. It was already in process when he got there. So they bought new uniforms for a 7-12 band. Some of them were so tiny. And so when a community pours out that kind of money, for uniforms, and then I come in,
That's tough.
brand new director, what's he know? We just did all this and this, and I knew that history coming in there. So I had really good support from my principal and superintendent, of which my superintendent, by the way, one of the few years before he retired, got superintendent of the year for IBA, and if my current principal had not gone to another school, he was going to get it too. I was going to nominate him, and I'm sure he would have won because he'd done even more for me than my superintendent had. Those two guys were really the main reason why I had such success. They supported me. If you can't find support in your program from the people who you need to have it from, you're in trouble. That might be a sign.
It's easy to look at a program that struggles and on the surface say, what are you doing, band director? But it's so much more complicated than that.
It is. There's a lot happening behind the scenes that parents don't know and kids don't know. And I don't think I want my kids to know that, yeah, we get to do this, but I had to fight tooth and nail to get them to do that. No, I was like, no, the superintendent says, or the principal says we can,
Yeah.
So, and we had good parent support too. Like I said, I was a little nervous the first time we took a band out on the field, and those 7th and 8th graders weren't in there, and there was like, when you take out the football players, I think we had like 22 kids on the field.
Was that year one, or did you?
That was year 1.
Oh, you did it right away?
Right away.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So, that was tough, but it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And so at what point in...
they didn't can me.
Yeah. And you're still around. You're still teaching.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
At what point did you come to a place where you thought, all right, this machine's moving, it's working. It's how I want it to be.
Probably less than 5 years.
Nice.
Numbers had almost doubled. I was a little nervous because my sophomore class when I got there was really on board with me. Like, they were the ones, like, we'd never done All-State before. They were trying out for All-State. We started a jazz band. All these things that they hadn't really done before, like a competitive jazz band. They had done some jazz before, but not all year round. They'd only done it for like 6 weeks to get ready for a Pops concert in the spring, kind of thing. So, man, those kids were on board, and because they were on board and their enthusiasm, and they were really bright, outgoing students, and they're all on very successful career paths right now too. Like out of those kids, I mean, like every one of them's doing something awesome today. So I had them on board. I was a little nervous when they were going to graduate to see if that momentum would keep going, and it did. That's what blew my mind.
That's
like,
encouraging. Well,
getting those kids to take ownership, and then the younger ones behind them saw that, and it just kind of fed. You know what I mean? So I feel like in a smaller situation, and it was a 5-12 situation, I had more control. So it's probably a little easier to do that than, say, if I was just a high school director, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
So what was a day? So 5-12. What did your day kind of look like with?
with
lessons
5-12?
and
Oh,
the
geez.
schedule and
Okay, so when it was 5-12, I would have 5th or 6th grade band right away in the morning. When I first started, they were combined, which was a little wonky. But, I mean, it worked. Eventually, I got it, so it was a 5th grade and a 6th grade band separated out. So, 5th, 6th grade band were right away. And then I would have some lessons.
Was that alternating days? Oh, no.
Yeah, they were alternating days, yeah. And I feel like it was a 6-day schedule, so it never was stay consistent. I can't remember correctly. Yeah. I didn't have a lot of kids. My first year teaching, I think I had 80 kids total. Mm-hmm. So like my 5th graders and 6th graders were getting, like 2 lessons a week, 15-minute lessons private.
Oh.
I was filling that time. I was feeling it. I was getting as much contact time as possible. Sixth graders were getting private at least 15 to 20 minute lesson a week. All the high schoolers were, middle schoolers, everybody, because you have 80 kids.
Yep.
And so 5, 6 was during the same class period, and then I had my 7, 8 band, which was I think Tuesday, Thursdays. That was it, something like that.
Oh, interesting.
And then my high school band was every day for 30 minutes. That's it. It was a weird thing. We were over the lunch period. It was like high school choir, high school band, and then she had a second choir, which was like either men's choir or women's choir.
Mm-hmm.
She was phenomenal.
Is that Bonnie?
Bonnie Stewart is the reason I learned to become organized. Nobody does anything on their own. Let's be honest.
Yep.
If you think you did, you're lying to yourself.
Yep.
And I mean, I struggled with organization as it was. I am the guy in college that would show up to Wind Symphony and I'd look around to a rehearsal and everybody's in formals. And they'd be like, we're doing the album cover shot today. I'm like, oh man. I'd be like running back to the dorm and like trying to get my tux on and then running back and I'm like literally sliding in behind a marimba right before the picture is taken. I got the cassette tape someplace. I'm sure my face is just like, you know what I mean? I was like, that's me. I am so lucky too. These are the things I get lucky about too. But anyway, I was not a super organized person. I probably spent 14 hours a day at school my first year teaching, not because of the passion for the job, but because I was so disorganized, I had to put in that much time to be ready. So everything would be right for the kids. Because when you only see the kids 30 minutes, you're planning like 23 and a half hours because you can't wait to get them again, you know what I mean, for your high school kids or your elementary kids or something like that, So you just, so it was like plan for that 30 minutes. That's all I got. So, but Bonnie Stewart, helped me be organized and got me. So I would have half-hour band every day, and then probably lunch and lessons, and at Ventura I ate with the staff. Robert W. Dean, Bob Dean, my mentor, is like, eat lunch with the staff if you can possibly do it. Don't eat at your desk. Meet the staff, and it was a huge asset to do that, and I loved it. It was fun. I probably laughed. I don't even know how much. Having lunch with, which is how my memories were in college, having lunch with my buddies and stuff like that. But, and then I would have 7, 8 band, which was the plague on my life. Those like 14 or 15 kids were terrors. I was like, oh, I was like, I'd wake up in the morning, it's 7, 8 band today. Now I'm just like, I love it. I love them, but at the time I was like, classroom management was a nightmare and this and that. So, but yeah. Oh, and then finish the day. I'd finish the day. Cool. And probably lessons again, something like that. At my very first year, we didn't have a jazz band. I didn't start a jazz band until after Christmas because I knew what their situation was and what they were accustomed to. So I had a jazz combo I played in and brought those guys up. And my combo played with them, and then we also played. And so
in concert,
nice. Yeah, and that's kind of how we got it started with the jazz band thing. And they're like, "Ooh, this is pretty cool," So like I had like Dave Kerr, who's now got his doctorate in natural trumpet, and working with them, and Pat Smith playing bass with them, and if you go to UNI and in the jazz building, there's a big portrait of a guy with a snare drum. His name was Tom Capps, vibe player. Died of cancer. He'd been dealing with it since he was a teenager. Okay. Anyway, amazing vibraphonist. Actually, a phenomenal drum set player. One leg. Yeah, and amazing. And nobody would have known.
Okay, which leg?
So, his what was it? His left leg was the real leg. And his right leg was the fake leg. So it was actual artificial leg.
So he had two.
Sure.
So it wasn't like the Def Leppard drummer.
It looked like he had two. And it's like from the hip down. And so his band director helped him rig up, so he took a kick pedal over to the hi-hat.
Okay.
And then so he ran the kick pedal with his heel and the hi-hat with his toe. Right.
Crazy, yeah.
So we're doing a clinic with Billy Taylor's drummer. Billy Taylor trio. And Tom is one of the guys up there playing. He's a beast. The guy is a combo phenomenal. And he played in Jazz One and Vibes too. So anyway, So the drummer's like, I need you more. Yeah, I need you to do this more with your kick. Tom doesn't say a word, not a word, not a word the whole time. And like, meanwhile, everybody in the clinic knows, like, he doesn't have a leg there, man. It's like he's doing it all with his heel and his toe. It's like this guy is not seeing what's going on here. It's just like but that was what he was. So anyway, so Tom Capps came up and worked with my kids on improvisation. So did Dave. Dave did some cool stuff with improvisation, and yeah, we just had a heck of a good time. So
awesome.
Yeah. So
Did you say that you started doing jazz all year round?
The next year we started doing jazz all year round, and we started competing. I think either the next year or my third year. I think it was the next year we started competing. So yeah.
So was that just like outside of school, or was that like in the day?
Before the day. We'd start like at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was like a 7 to 7:45, 2 days a week kind of thing. So, which was a new thing too, but they did it, So, and we changed up on marching band by that time too. So before we were coming in and doing marching in the morning, and when you only have like 22 kids on the field, this is how I wrote my charts, right? So we'd have our song, and I would say, okay, everybody draw a V. Okay, we're going to go from where you're standing now into that V, from this measure to that measure. Go. Okay, everybody draw. Yeah, that's what we did.
Just simpler.
It was super simple. Just because, and then by year 3, and I know this because one of my good friends who would have graduated then, that year, she talks about it still. We'd got it approved to do pep band in the stands
instead of a halftime
show. We'd stand on the track for the national anthem, because on the field with 20 some kids, and we stand on the track. Well, actually, by this time we were probably closer to 40 kids because it was year 3, but still, or 30 some kids. And anyway, we'd play the national anthem, school song on the track, and then we'd play in the stands the rest of the time. But the last game, we did a halftime show, right? So we played our songs, and then we closed with the school song, and we did it kind of like we would stand in the shape of a V, and they'd yell V, and we'd like drum cadence, and they'd scatter drill to an H. Okay, they'd put their hats on the ground in the V, by the way. So they got the V with their hats on the ground, so you can see the V with the marching hats.
There you
and
go.
Then we're standing in an H. So then they yell H, and then we go into drum cadence, and they set their horns down on the ground. So now you got a V, an H with horns on the ground. The drummers like cadence them over, and they stand in an S, and they go S. And then we do the drum roll off, and we go into the fight song on kazoos and march off the field. And that was the last time.
To end the season.
That's how we ended the marching saga at Ventura High School, was marching off the field to that. We street marched after that, but we didn't do field shows. So, yeah. But I replaced that then with the jazz band.
Mm-hmm.
So, and used that time for jazz band.
Yeah, it's just redistributing the
And when you
resource.
only have that many kids in band, most of your kids are in jazz band too. So like we had kids doubling over, and like we used a tuba in jazz band, and a lot of my clarinet players also played saxophone. We started them on saxophone so we could have enough saxophones. And so, it was cool.
Yeah. Well, so when you're teaching 512, and by now you're an expert, but
I'm not.
Anyway, what's like important? Like, if you had to like describe each level, like what are the are there like different like approaches to the different, like what are those?
512, the number one thing is communication. Your vocabulary that you're using with your 712, or actually 912 versus 712 versus 5/6, has to be altered. You can't use the same language. You have to explain things differently. And I didn't realize that right away. And then finally one day, I think I looked at my 7/8 band or something like that. It's like, do you know what that word means? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, let me try this. Da 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 da. And this was like at Ventura when I figured that out. That's the advantage to a 512 program too. Is like every day I'm seeing these kids back to back. I mean, for a while there, we went to a block schedule, so I was having fifth or sixth graders split a block, or no, I can't remember how it works exactly, but I had fifth or sixth graders right before high school band. Or was it high school band right before fifth and sixth? All I know is they were back to back.
Yep.
And switching gears was a little more complicated than at first. I was like, took me a while to adjust to that. And that's where I figured that out, was like, I don't think these kids understand what I'm saying right now. You know, so that's the number one thing, communication, vocabulary. With fifth and sixth grade, I work a lot more on fundamentals, In fact, fifth grade, probably 60% or more of the rehearsal is fundamentals. And then we don't really start working on concert music until very close to the concert. By that time, you can put it together pretty quick. And it's mostly unison stuff, or, you know. Sixth grade, same kind of deal, little more time to prep for the concert. 7, 8, still very heavy fundamentals on the warm-up part, and I just do more concert ensemble stuff. And then also I pick my concert music on the skills either I want to enhance, or the style of music I want to expose them to, or if I want to include more kids. Like for instance, you know I have a group of kids who really want to be challenged. And then I also have these groups of kids who they just want to play, and I have these groups of kids who want to play, but they really can't play, you know. So I try to find something accessible for everybody at some point in the concert, kind of thing, you know. So when my goal is to get them all ready for high school. So when we get to high school, then he doesn't have to worry about the skills as much as he does what fits my players. You know, what I have for instrumentation, or for individual players that are within the group. Like, oh, I've got a beast alto sax player. We need to think about maybe doing a piece by da-da-da-da-da. You know, or I've got, like, when my woodwind section plays, it just is sonorous. It's like, so I need to find something like a Granger piece out there or something in front of them, you know, that really gets that woodwind singing, you know, kind of deal. So I want my high school director to look at that, which is a different approach when you're 5'12". When I'm 5'12", you know, I'm thinking about, okay, what's my instrumentation look like? All right. And then I'm hoping I can have them to do that by the time I get to high school. It's a little tougher when you're all by yourself. So anyway.
Is that like a big shift?
From 5'12" to like just doing 7, 8?
Yeah, or was it kind of like, cool, now I can just focus on this one?
Oh, I love
level.
shifting to just 7, 8. That was the best, because now I can live in that world, you know?
Is that your current teaching assignment?
So now I'm 5'8".
5'8".
Yeah. I teach some lessons with the high schoolers.
Yep.
And I get to do the one-on-one and work on the advanced lit and things like that with those high schoolers. But I just love working with the 5'8", and being in that world all the time, because I feel like everything I do now is stronger and more focused at that level that they need to be at. If that makes sense. So, like I said, I've really developed a good structure for each age group and ability level. And now, you know, when I go to IBA, I focus a lot on clinics on those middle school and elementary. I don't know what I went to, like the President's Own had their chamber ensemble.
A couple years ago?
Yeah, and I was like, what am I doing in here? Okay, this is great, but this is definitely not where I need to be right now. I need to be in da-da-da-da-da, you know, kind of thing. So that's kind of where I focus more now, is because my job is to take all the obstacles away from my high school director. You know, that's, you know, 1, get kids there, and 2, make sure they can do things that they can have fun and enjoy, you know. That's priority 1 for me now.
What are some of those, like you said, you kind of have structures now in place. What are some of those that you think have a disproportionate, like, effect on everything else? Like, if you had to...
I feel like rhythm is probably the core to having bands who can read well. You know? If they have a good sense of pulse and counting, even if they're hitting wrong notes, you're going to stay together, and you can iron those things out. Kind of deal. You can put in, you know, those fingerings later, or figure out that what, you know, it's like, you know, I got an E sharp, Mr. Benzing. Well, let's figure that out, you know, that kind of thing. You could figure that out later, but if they're rhythmically counting together and pulsing together, you could do a lot right away. You could teach things faster, I think. So we spend a pretty good chunk of rehearsal on the warm-up side, working rhythms. And I vary it. We might start with some long tones and work on like fifth and sixth grade might even do work off a pentatonic scale. Do first, maybe just some long tones and maybe add some different dynamic motion to it or something like that. But then we'll get right into rhythms and we'll do some counting out loud and clapping or stomping or snapping, anything physical, and then we'll play it, maybe on one pitch or something like that. So I just put it up on the projector screen. And so I have rhythms we do every day with every group up through 8th grade, and just work on counting. That's probably at least 5 minutes of our warm-up is counting exercises, warming up. And we obviously work on breathing and breath control and dynamic control and things like that also. And the younger they are, the more we do it. Tone production with 5th graders, I do a lot of, I play something, they play it back, ear training, because if they're not aware if the pitch goes higher or the pitch goes lower, they're not going to learn to play in tune. So I'll sit up there, like the 5th grade, they love this. We get 2 notes down, maybe 3 notes down. I'll just sit up there and I'll pick a different instrument each day, and I'll play like 1 note, and then they got to find that note. I'll say, okay, it's either, I usually call them by scale degrees, 1, 2, or 3, okay, and they got to find that note, and they find that note, and I'll say, well, okay, what was the note? They'll yell it out, and then I'll be like, okay, I'll place like a rhythm on that note or that, and go one direction or the other, and try to get them to use their ear to be aware of where they're going with that. So we do a lot of that with 5th grade as well as the counting, and I'll mix it up. We won't do all counting. We'll do some playing, some counting, a different playing exercise, some different counting, stuff like that. And particularly in 5th grade. And then 6th grade, it's a little more structured. Maybe 10 minutes of that is out of a 35-minute rehearsal is going to be warm-ups, exercises, eventually chorales, learning how to balance a blend, kind of things like that. 7, 8, same thing, kind of deal. We did like a chorale a week. It was at Bach and Beyond. Yeah, we do those chorales, and I do them. Everybody learns the bass line. Everyone learns the tenor line. Everyone, so they can hear that, and then we'll break it into the 4-part. Sometimes we'll mess with it and I'll say, okay, flutes, play the bass part. Clarinets, play the bass part. Tubas, the tuba's like, what? Because it's going up to like a D in the middle of the staff or something like that. And I'll say, how did that sound? Okay, let's go back the other way. Say, now you know why we have different instruments. Now you know why we voice things the way we do. Now you know what your jobs are, kind of thing. And they look at me like I'm an idiot sometimes, and that's okay. So, yeah, like,
Hope Benzing.
It's like we've just played this chorale like 5 times, I know. Sometimes it takes more than 3 rehearsals. I try to do it, because I see my 7, 8 3 times a week. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks. Some of those chorales have a lot of accidentals in them, and I want to make sure that every note's, they're playing those correct, so they know it's important that, there's a D sharp there. We need to play the D sharp. It has an impact.
Not optional.
It's not optional. That's right. Not a suggested note.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not an accidental, it's an incidental.
Yeah, it's an incidental. I don't know. I forgot what the question was. I don't even know where I went with that.
Okay, that's good.
That's good. Yeah. I don't know.
Kurt, do you got anything?
Oh, you were asking me about my program, how I do a rehearsal. Yeah, and then I'll throw in some actual some concert lit, and we'll work on that. I'm trying to, and I'm terrible about it because I get going, and then I realize I should have left a minute to do a cool down, or something like that at the end. And it's like I know this because I have the percussion start to pack about 2 minutes before we release, and it's like, okay, we should be doing like something, long tones of some sort or anything instead of playing. But when you've got a finite amount of time, you're just like, gotta. By the way, don't use the word finite with your 5/8 kids.
Hey, example.
Example.
Yeah.
Communication. There you go. All right. Yeah. So, yeah.
I could just picture you yelling at your kids. Morendo. I asked for Morendo here.
It's like, what? Yeah. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you also mentor a lot of teachers.
I do.
What are there like themes or commonalities you find that like all young teachers could benefit from, or
Yeah.
like
So
what's
I've
those?
noticed this more in the last 10 years than previously, and I'm not sure why. But and it doesn't matter if I'm mentoring a band director or a teacher in the GHV district. Planning. They don't plan enough, or they're not being rigorous enough. They don't think the kids can. I feel like sometimes they don't feel like they can challenge the kids as much as they should be. You know what I mean? Like they're like I'm gonna get them to here. It's like, well, shoot for this, and if it doesn't work, reassess and call an audible and go with it. You'll know, kind of thing. That's the thing, is working on the fly. So there's some are very structured. I got to do this, as opposed to, okay, that didn't work. What are you going to do now? Kind of thing. And particularly since like some of the teachers I mentor only teach 2 different classes, you know, and I'm like, man, you're only teaching 2 different classes. If you found out that didn't work in the first one, now it might work in the next one because it's a different entity. It's a different beast. You know, every group's a different beast. But if it doesn't, you know, what's your plan? So you need to plan for that. It's like you just can't go for it. No. You got to know, okay, if this does not work, what am I going to do? You know,
Plan B, Plan C.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Anticipate a little bit.
And I think as you get more experience, and the gray-haired guy here is going to know exactly what I'm talking about, is like you don't have to structure all that out when you're figuring out your plan for the day anymore, because you know those tools. They're like literally on your belt, and you can just like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
And I can grab it. As opposed to when you're a first, second-year teacher, even a third-year teacher, those ideas aren't as accessible to you. And so you might want to write down, like, okay, if that doesn't work, I'm going to try this. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try this. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try this, you know, depending on whatever subject they're teaching or whatever. And so I feel like that's probably the biggest one. Also, sometimes the high school teachers I've noticed, because they came out of college, they're more lecture-based. And I still think even high schoolers need to engage and be active and be involved and discuss more as opposed to being lectured at. And the younger they get, I think the more hands-on you need to be, you know, flat out. And you got to switch gears faster when they're younger.
Yeah.
Transitions kill young teachers. Kill them. Because they lose control during transitions. The transitions kill experienced teachers. I've been run over like a freight train with transitions on occasion.
Sure.
Oh man, like the day after like a field trip or something like that, and they are just wired. Or the first day back from Christmas break, and it's like they haven't seen each other forever, you know? It's like when I get home and my dogs are there, like, they're jumping up and down on you. And if you don't have a plan, and even when you have a plan, sometimes, man, it's like, if you hesitate, it's like they sense it. And it's like, boom, right over the top of you. And you're like, yeah. You're like, oh, I lost that one. Yeah. So then you got to reel them back in. And it's hard to reel them back in sometimes, especially when there's so many of them, you know? Yeah.
We're going to take a quick pause.
Well, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
So I teach science,
Yeah.
and what you were talking about is relevant to any teacher.
Mm-hmm.
What's a transition look like in the band world? What do you think of when you try and plan transitioning or procedures for that?
Well, when I plan it, like for instance, if I'm working on a new concert band piece, usually the rhythms I do, I run in an order. But if I know there's going to be something challenging that we're going to have difficulties with, I might start with that rhythm in there, and we'll break it down, do the rhythm as a group, and then I'll be like, okay, now let's go to this song, go to measure. Don't start at the beginning. I'm going to go to right where those issues are. And so they can see that right away. And I also try to make it quick. So I'll like say percussion set up for da 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 da, and then the band's gonna go run this scale in A flat concert because the next song we're gonna work on is an A flat concert. So I have my percussion transitioning already, and they're ready to go on the next song. So I'm trying to like keep ahead of them, if that
Just to
makes
minimize downtime.
just to minimize downtime, because downtime can really go bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, it can go bad. Sometimes I feel like I talk too much in between the downtimes, and that's when I can get into trouble. You know.
Boy, I think that's all of us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Common. Yeah. And I feel like it's easier to have fast transitions with the littles, because everything we do is so short. So it's like bang, 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 bang. Whereas you get a little more in depth with the older kids, and when you start to teach in depth like that, you have to explain things. You can't. Sometimes it takes some writing on the board or modeling or something like that, and then so your pacing changes a little bit. Which pacing from gal from Texas. That was a great Darcy
Williams.
Man, her clinic on pacing was like the bomb. It was so good.
Was that this year?
That was 2 years ago. I went to every one of her sessions. I didn't even know who she was.
Yeah,
I just saw the first one was kind of involved with beginners. I was like, this is amazing. I didn't leave the room that morning because she had like 3 sessions, like something like that in a row. I was at all of them. I was like, this is brilliant. You know.
We do a lot of her stuff with
I do too. I start all my kids now don't even get their lesson book in front of, like we're starting in a week here, so
yeah, same.
they're not going to have their lesson book in front of them until the last day of lessons for summer. We're going to do everything by rote, learning how to hold, focusing on tone production, embouchure. We'll do some stuff up on the screen, obviously, but because I have them all by full sections too. But I had such a solid start to my 5th graders this last year because of those techniques that I learned in her clinic.
Awesome.
So, old dog, new tricks. Booyah.
Still willing to learn.
You got to be.
Yeah.
When I have student teachers, I usually pick up something new from them. A lot of times when I pick up something new from my student teachers, it's tech-oriented.
Yeah.
This app or whatever, which is awesome. So even the student teachers I think aren't the best, I still pick up some new tricks from them. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, do you guys find out what, like, breathing?
Have we figured out breathing?
Like with your kids, like so many of them would do so much better if they could figure out how to breathe. So I've been working on some ideas with that, but I don't know if you guys had any ideas on that.
Actually, I've just been doing that with the high schoolers more.
I've been using. I use Breathing Gym a little bit. We used to when I very first got it. We'd actually watch the video and stuff. Now I just kind of lead it as part of our, we'll play something. I found that I can't do Breathing Gym first because they're too squirrely.
Yeah.
So we play something and then maybe we'll do a Breathing Gym exercise kind of deal, and then we'll go back to playing something, kind of thing.
Something I've never thought of before because I've always done like the smooth in, smooth out. But I think it's the Harloff brothers, the Carolina Crown. I don't know. They're big DCI guys, but they have a method, and they have their guys do breathing where it goes slow to fast and fast to slow, and I feel like that helps the kids get engaged.
Airspeed or length?
Airspeed.
Oh, okay.
Airspeed.
Yeah.
So it's like, so you just start, hey, we're going to do an 8 count, a 1 in, 8 count. I think that I kind of think sometimes doing the ins for too long is hard. Like an 8 count in, it's like you're not really going to do that unless they're kind of trained.
So I only do a 1 to 2 count in. And I'll be like, so instead of a breathing gym exercise all day, I'll do you guys can do it with me. I'll be like, we'll get done with our scale. I'll be like, okay, breathing, here we go. Ready, in, 1, out. Ready, breath. Out, 2, 3, 4. Breath. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breath. Out, 2, 3. You know what I mean? And we'll go up to like,
out then.
Yeah, on the out, we'll go like 16. And I'll say like forte, 2, 3, 4, you know? Something like, and just to try to get him to breathe in and out. Getting him to breathe. So like I use a lot. You guys use balloons in your lessons or balloons in rehearsal at all or anything like that?
No, not regularly.
Okay, so like
Got some?
I always
Well,
have
I
balloons.
did some on the last day of school.
So I brought some balloons. So anyway, so like my good friend John Bell, who's a band director at Germantown, Wisconsin, tuba guy, and he's also a breathing guy and stuff like that because he's a tuba guy and they got to breathe. Anyway, so he got me doing like 8-inch round balloons. By the way, 8-inch round balloons are kind of hard to find. So I just found an 80 balloon. I got 9-inch balloons, So, but I know, it's subpar.
Yeah, right.
Wisconsin would have 8-inch.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, so buzzing, mouthpiece buzzing. You ever do that with a balloon? And
Oh, no.
oh yeah, so like we'll take and like wrap the balloon around the mouthpiece shank and blow the balloon up. Most of the time, these issues are with like your trumpet, trombone, tuba, baritone kind of thing. If it's a woodwind player, I will just practice blowing balloons up kind of thing. So we're getting to push airspeed. I also use balloons to show them like what happens if you don't use enough air kind of thing. I used to use a water bottle, like, just a cheap little disposable, you buy a Aquafina or something like that someplace. And, I'd show them like, okay, well, I have this half bottle of water here, and how much energy it takes to get the water to come out the top of the bottle versus if it's full kind of deal. And then I like started using like a balloon, and I would take and like, I would say, okay, I'm gonna blow this balloon up, and it's like nice and full. And it's like, I could play songs on it,
Oh, sure.
Stuff like that. And then, and it's like, but if I only put a little bit of air in there, and it just rounds it out, nothing. You know what I mean? So I'll use balloons sometimes, and with the 5th grade, I'll use both the water bottle thing and the balloon thing in the group and in lessons, probably a couple times a year, and the 6th grade, same thing. 7, 8, might have to use it once a year if they're just really not putting air in the horns kind of deal, just to remind them that, and they think it's hilarious when I do the water bottle, and it's like, oh, this water hits the floor,
Oh yeah.
They love that.
Oh, fun. Yeah,
So
right.
yeah. Anyway, don't let the balloon go flying off, because if somebody gets a hold of the balloon, then it becomes an issue.
Mm.
Yeah. Like, it's my balloon. No, it's like puppies fighting over a treat kind of thing. So yeah, don't do that. But yeah, so breathing has probably been my biggest focus this last year, is trying to get them to breathe. So, because if they breathe and put some horn, then we can learn to control it and stuff like that. So anyway,
There's an exercise in the Roger Bobo book, and I love this one when I don't have a lot of time, and you can just do 3s or 4s or 2s, whatever, but you'll go in for 4 with kind of through the instrument, unless it's a gross one, then don't breathe through it.
yeah.
And then you go out for 4 and you listen to it, and then you go breathe in for 4 again, but you press all the valves down.
Oh,
And then you press out, and I tell them, make them sound the same.
Mm.
So like, because when
Oh.
you have no resistance, it goes,
right.
but when you put them all down, it's like, so I'm
Right.
like, try to
Right,
make
right,
them
right.
try to make them sound the same,
Right.
and you can just do 4s or 3s or 2s, or I mean, you could just do into, out, to, into, out, to, into. I mean, do it until you're like almost a little bit dizzy, and then set the horn down.
Yeah.
But I like that. It kind of gets you going like real fast. So and then it helps, especially tuba players. You kind of feel the resistance of the horn a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, when you're playing like an open B flat, but you're feeling like pretending all 4 are down.
Right.
It's just, and then
Yeah.
when you got a bunch of valves down, but you're thinking zipping through it, it kind of
Right. Have you seen the low voice thing? My good friend John Bell showed me this one, because I had a tuba player that, man, she was like ripping it like in the staff and up, but she could not get like below an F, below the
Okay.
staff. Yeah. And he's like, have her say her name in a low voice. So like, Nate. Now you go with that. And all of a sudden, boom, her tone just dropped. I was like, that's amazing. I was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that was, I was like, that was my epiphany, like 4th quarter this year.
Yeah,
I was like,
fantastic trick.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I know. I was like, and that's like a no-brainer. Of course, it gets you, she wasn't opening her throat,
Yeah.
That's it. So there you go.
Mhm.
That's why you call somebody who knows more than you. Always, always.
I can't wait to try that trick with Paul.
So yeah.
Sounds good.
It's just like, it's like never be afraid to
Sweet.
call somebody. It's like, you ever meet those guys that they just don't want to go outside their own little world? And I just don't understand that because, man, you're just not going to succeed that way. You're just not. I don't care how amazing you are. You're just, you got to call you. I mean, I talk to Holly and Mary Kate all the time, and we'll always get the band stuff. We can't help it. I mean, and here you got Holly's 12-year director. Mary Kate's probably 4 or 5 years. But still, man, they all have their experiences, and they have good ideas. And so I'm really lucky because I live in the same town with other band directors, even though we don't work together. We still can share ideas and get together and hang out and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. You guys weren't closer, Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I wish we lived on the same street.
Ah.
Oh, us, the two of us.
Yeah, if only we did. We do.
I'm going to guess that maybe Abby's okay with that. Or you do live on the same street.
Oh, we do.
We
Do you
do.
live in the basement?
No, yeah, right.
Yeah. I've slept in that basement.
Yeah.
No, Nick lives a solid 3 blocks north of me.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I haven't had the honor yet. We'll have to have a sleepover sometime.
Let's do it. Sleepover.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any other good tricks for random instruments that you just are like, oh, this fixes this?
Oh, man. Well, I think I'm constantly repeating like VO or M, to my younger students, even my 6th graders sometimes. Airspeed.
So explain VO and M.
VO, so the embouchure to like play a clarinet or a saxophone. Some people might change syllable, but VO, if you like feel your teeth hit that lip,
I like
to
that.
firm up that embouchure, stuff like that. M, corners back kind of thing. We free buzz a lot. In lessons, we free buzz. We buzz on mouthpieces a lot. This is a fantastic sound. The beginning, my principal was good, I think, because, they call them spot checks. Just to come in and they write nice things about you. I love it. Anyway, and say, hey, I saw this, I saw the kids engaged, da-da-da-da-da. And then they leave a little note for you, and sometimes a treat, Yeah, I love my principal. She makes me want to do better. When you have a principal like that, never move. I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you have an administrator that makes you want to be better, don't leave that job. That's Nate's advice for today.
Life lesson.
But anyway, so like, what were we talking about? Oh, mouthpiece buzzing. So like in lessons, and then like 5th and 6th graders, we'll start band, and this is a horrible sound. So I'll have the saxophones on necks, mouthpiece necks, and clarinets on barrels, and then all the brass.
Mouthpiece.
And we're just playing on mouthpieces. Yeah, like we're playing an exercise on mouthpieces. Then I'll have the woodwinds play while all the brass is still on just mouthpieces.
Yep.
And then so we do a lot. We'll play a song, and then I'll have all the brass play it on mouthpieces, and the woodwinds will play it again, kind of thing like that. We do a lot of that. That's a Bruce Jolivet trick, not mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In fact, when we get kids into our level 2 in brass, we use like a standard band method for when we start our band kids. But when we get into level 2 with them, like the second book, we go to like brass specific, like the Simra Hovey. I think that's how you pronounce them, Simra Hovey or whatever. And so the first several pages are pretty simple. So we'll go through and we'll play it, and then we'll go through and buzz it. And listening for the phrases. That's what I love about this. The phrases are fantastic.
Yeah, just
Even
musical.
in the very basic stuff, the phrasing is fantastic. So a lot of buzzing on mouthpieces and things like that. Willie Rosine, saxophone player, pastor now, showed me about saxophone. Like for years, I thought my embouchure is this on the saxophone. This is what it is to play every note. That's the same. I don't adjust it. No, you got to squeeze and relax and everything on that too. And me being a percussionist, I'm like, whoa, that's a whole new idea. Now, some saxophone players might say, oh, that's wrong. It's kind of like the whole tonguing thing, is like, different types of, there's different styles of tonguing. I was like, there are, and here's the deal. This person says, that kind is terrible, and the other person says, no, that kind is terrible. Well, find what works,
You said that. is it a Louis Armstrong quote? If it sounds good, it is good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. It is good.
Yeah, and that's kind of the philosophy I've gone with too.
Yeah.
Is
Maybe the exception of what might sound good for a fifth grader might limit you when
right,
you're
right,
a
right.
junior or something.
It's different. Well, like that's exactly.
There's
right.
exceptions, but I mean, I do think it's
Right.
a good general rule.
Right. Yeah. So like because I think what was it? We had a clarinet player go work with Mary Kate. Mary Kate's a really good teacher, and she goes, "You're teaching your clarinets out of tongue wrong," and I'm like, "What?" Well, they're doing anchor tonguing.
Oh, yep.
And meanwhile, another buddy's like, "Oh no, I teach them all to anchor tongue."
Oh, intentionally.
Yeah, he's like, "No, I teach them anchor tongue." I'm like, okay. I was like, because they were getting too thumpy the other way, but here they were nice and light.
On an anchor tongue?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. They were, I don't know why.
oh, interesting.
I don't know why. Not all of them. Not all of them.
Okay.
But yeah. So I'd say anchor tongue more with the alto sax than with the clarinet. So, but a few.
So how do you teach anchor tonguing then?
I just park your tongue. Your tongue is like kind of like here's your teeth, and your tongue is like doot, 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 kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm
It's
a
interesting.
percussionist. I am not the person to get into that discussion.
Well, no, but it's
Yeah.
interesting to me as someone that like to hear how someone that hasn't done it. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes I think it's harder to explain things that you just know that I've just.
So
always been
as a
able to
brass
tongue.
player, how do you explain tonguing to your brass players?
I just have them say ta or da,
Ta.
and then I have them move to
No,
air. Ta,
Why is
ta,
da the
da,
same way as
da,
ta?
da.
Because it's
da,
not.
Oh, they're different. I agree.
I know. So that's the other thing too. Is like whatever syllable you use changes the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I mean it's like I mean
Mhm.
it's like
ta or da or.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the
Or-
thing is like it's this whole tonguing thing. It's like it's like when a non-percussionist is like, you do what? I'm like, yeah, you, like what is happening on the snare drum? I don't even know. It's like this is basic stuff. This is not your kid's fault. This is like you got to fix this. It's like kind of thing. But meanwhile, that's how I am with tonguing. And they're looking at me like, Benzing, what are you doing? It's like, I don't know. Teach me.
Well, I wonder if that's like kind of. I was reading something from the North Texas Clarinet Handbook. It's all online. You can
Mhm.
find it on their Clarinet Studio website. It's like 90 pages. It's awesome.
I don't
and
know. Could you like put that down into like 2 sentences for me?
I have it back there. I printed
Maybe
it out.
10
I can just
sentences,
give it to you.
Yeah.
But one of the clarinet teachers, they pulled a bunch of like master classes and put an appendix in the back.
All right.
But this guy's Howard Klug or Klug.
Mhm.
I think is like a famous clarinet teacher and player, and he talks about th tonguing. Like he has them say th 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 th, and so
I've heard that recently.
yeah, and
I don't know from who though.
it like I don't know it made a difference for me, and it made a difference for my students too.
For
so
brass?
no, for clarinet.
Okay, I was gonna say. I was like, yeah,
Well, I
thank you.
use it on brass, but only like if you want to play. Like if you're playing in the low register and you want to get that spank sound on like a bass trombone,
So
or you
pop.
want to spank like
Yeah.
a lower note,
Right.
I almost think about getting my tongue in
Like you're spitting hair out of your
almost
mouth.
like I'm almost thinking putting my tongue at the front of my
Yeah.
almost on my tongue or on
Right.
my top of my lip.
Right.
But pha can sometimes help those low register notes
Right.
speak a little,
Right.
but they're mostly air anyway. I mean it's more
Right.
of an air
Yeah.
rather than a tongue.
Right.
but,
Right. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't know. I'm still figuring all that out.
And the vowel
That's the
matters
thing
Same
too.
here, same
That's why it's
here.
like it's like I can't retire. I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
So it's all right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, was there any more with the saxophone thing with the squeezing and the like? Are there any like hard and fast
like
rules for
a
that?
lot of what we were doing was like we were doing like wee 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 wee, which is hard to do. Have you tried to do that on a saxophone mouthpiece? That's tough to do, and it's like pressure and release, but keeping the air moving, that's tough to do. And on clarinet too, put it like on a barrel because it's way easier to hold, and on the neck of the saxophone too,
Mhm.
kind of thing. I am pretty adamant about that starting pitch on the mouthpiece and neck
Mm-hmm.
for getting them started on
Mhm.
that, so they have the right pressure to start with.
Yep.
Same with clarinet. I feel like, and I don't. Here's the deal. I don't even remember what the pitches are, but I have it like written down every time we do our lessons.
Yep.
Like when I start my beginners, it's going to be up there. Okay, this is what we're looking for. And that So I write it down so I don't have to remember.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Indiana Jones. Yeah.
You got anything for flute?
Pooh.
Pooh.
Pooh. It's the
Okay.
best one. Angelita Floyd, Dr. Angelita Floyd, Pooh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then I did, mostly because I had a crush on her, I did take extended flute lessons from Dr. Deanna Hahn. She wasn't a doctor at the time. I dated her for a while. She was getting her master's at Iowa for a few months. And then she went to Indiana, and I think she's a professor of flute out there. So, anyway,
Oh.
yeah. From Belmont. Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
Trevor Y. expert or something like that. So, I believe. I don't know. Google her.
Yeah. Well, that Trevor Y, that's like a book, right? A series of books.
That's a man
Well,
from
yeah.
England.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I knew-
yeah,
I knew it
but,
was a dude,
But he
but-
does have a ton
The
of
man, the book.
He does
The
have a
man, the
ton of
book.
like method and etude books out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think actually Angelita Floyd's the Trevor Y expert. Maybe Dr. Floyd is, but I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. Is that like an approach to playing or something?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Like Suzuki Y?
Unsure.
or- Yeah.
No, not Suzuki. Like
Well, I mean,
don't-
like
don't-
like a
I
Suzuki
don't
type.
know. Maybe it was this
It's
tone.
not
is-
It's not
Suzuki.
Suzuki.
But I
Epic-
just meant
Epic tone. That's all I
Epic
know.
tone. I-
Epic tone.
I like that.
Yeah. So anyway,
Okay.
I wanted to work on jazz flute, so that's why actually
Motivation.
Well,
and
Jethro
Deanna
Tull.
was cute, but I wanted to work on jazz flute. So
I was working with a student on some of our marching band music this year, and she just wasn't articulating, and so I found some jazz flute, Jethro Tull, and said a little more like this.
jazz flute.
Didn't
Yeah.
help, but
Yeah.
it was. But
Yeah.
now I know some cool jazz flute songs.
There you go. There you go.
So, okay, let's move into the rocket science lab.
Yeah,
Rocket
let's do it.
science.
Nate, how do you build a jazz band?
Oh.
How do you foundationally, like how do you
build a jazz band?
yeah, read us the book.
First, you order the kit online from Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon, right?
Amazon.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's weird because I never really thought of it as it being a deal because I grew up with it. As a drummer, I mean, you lived and died for jazz bands, starting as soon as they let you get behind a drum kit kind of thing. So, Ventura kind of had a jazz band, but it was, like I said, it was just kind of threw together, just rehearsed for a few weeks kind of deal.
When you first came.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
first came. But if you want to have a band where, like, you want to get to the core of jazz, which is improvisation, you have to first find someone to play bass guitar and drum set
Mm-hmm.
and piano. Ideally, would be nice to have. Sometimes you don't have those, so you have to substitute. So find a piano player and play keyboard bass. You might not have a piano, or find somebody who has really basic piano skills and give them simple chords like 3-note chords or something like that. Bass players, give them, if they don't really have any chops, double them with a keyboard bass and have them play like root fifth, kind of thing. Which is boring as all get out, but it's something. Root, fifth,
Mhm.
kind of whatever. Pick a proper drum set player. Don't throw your percussionist on the drum set just because they're in the percussion section. Some percussionists were never meant to be drum set players. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've had saxophone players better drum set players than some of my percussionists would be. So you got to find a drum set player that has an excellent sense of music phrasing and pulse, okay, and can discoordinate. You know what I mean? So first of all, somebody who can listen and hear music and hear phrases and know when those phrases are ending. That's a drum set player. Because if you don't have somebody in the drum set that can do that, your band's not going to play musically. I just don't think it's going to happen. One of your brother-in-law's classmates, Jesse Hyde was his name. I don't know if Brandon still keeps in touch with him or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, we lost our drummer, moved or something, and we didn't have anybody. I had taken actually one of my other percussionists and put her on bass because she had good piano skills and could learn bass pretty readily. Turned out to be an excellent bass player. Got one of the outstanding soloist awards in Class 1A.
Nice.
along with your other brother-in-law on piano
Mhm.
that year. Anyway, that was a fun year. Hogged 2 of those solos, 2 of the 4. But the drummer was Jesse Hyde, who was a saxophone player in my jazz band, and he could solo really well, and he had lots of musical sense. And so you take him and you give him real basic stuff to play, but he plays it musically and plays it with excellent timing, and your band will swing if you do that. And I think a lot of times people throw a drummer on a drum set because they're in the percussion section. So, and I feel pretty confident when I talk about that. I mean, we've had some really good drummers at GHV. I mean, we had the All-State Jazz Band drummer in 2A 2 years ago, and then he didn't audition this last year because he had track. He's a really good runner. So our second drummer auditioned, and he got alternate. So, I mean, you know what I mean? So hand
You have a bit of a track record then,
hand picking those drum set players is really, that's probably the first thing. It's kind of like for your band, your concert band or your jazz band. Programming the music is probably the most important job you're going to do. Picking the right music for your ensemble. Well, finding the drummer, that's not just handing, any ordinary. And there's a lot of schools who always pick the wrong person to be playing drum set. Sometimes it's not the person who can play mallets. Sometimes it's the person who can't read very well. Sometimes it is your best reader. Sometimes it is your best percussionist, but not always. With my percussion background, a lot of times I will feed the flames of strong percussionists and keep them on the concert percussion side more. And when I find that person that's going to be a good set player, I'll steer them more towards drum set. I'll still teach them to read. They'll still play mallets. They'll do all that stuff. But we're going to add drum set into their focus more, as opposed to. Now, I'll still have my other ones learning to play drum set because there are lots of opportunities where they can play drum set, not just at school. I have a lot of kids who play drum set in their church. I have a lot of non-drummers who play drum set in their church, or have had. I don't know if they're currently out there or not, but and that's cool too. So plus pep band, state fair or county fair. I found out we had a kid play Wipeout at a county fair. I'm like, hey, that's awesome, man. So they just got up there and he just played Wipeout.
It's like a talent show sort of
talent
thing?
show thing.
Yeah.
I was like, he got a ribbon for it. I was like, all right. Attaboy. So, so anyway, yeah. So picking your rhythm section, because if your rhythm section doesn't go, nothing's going to go. That's the engine. So got to find a rhythm section. Got to find at least a drummer and a bass player.
And competitively, that's a pretty big part of the judges' ballot too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. But even just to have a good group. If you're
in general.
if your drummer and bass player are not happening, your jazz band's not going to happen. It's just not. And then after that, then it's a matter of getting a lead voice player, preferably a lead trumpet player going. So if you can get that trio of bass, drums, lead trumpet on board, then the rest of the band's going to fall into place. Lead alto is great, but the brass doesn't usually hear the lead alto player very well. Lead trombone's not so bad, but they're usually not in a position all the time like your lead trumpet player is. So I really focus on those three, and then build around that. And then it doesn't really matter what you have in your ensemble after that. 2 trumpet players, 7 trumpet players, 1 trombone player, 14 saxophone players, whatever. But if you've got that bass, piano, or bass, drums, and lead trumpet, now the piano is just so nice for chordal stuff for solo sections, and that's where even any kid who has some basic piano can just plunk out. There's by Jarvis, Bob Washut pointed me to this book. I was already teaching, and we had done a couple charts that did not have piano parts written for them. Not voiced. That which is great when you get a band who's starting to read charts where everything's chords. So they got to read chords. That's great, but on the other hand, I mean that's a lot, big ask. So you go through and it gives you like 2-note, 3-note, 4-note, all the way up to like 5-note voicings for chords. 7 chords, 9 chords, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'll have to scan it, send it to you. I don't know if I
Yeah,
showed
do
it.
it.
Have I shown it to you?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Love
so
to see that.
so if you want to build chords for your piano player, whatever level they're at, and then just teach them to comp it, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So once you teach your bass player and piano player to like read chord symbols, man, you can do a lot of stuff. So Andrew's been doing quite a bit with our piano bass player because they're younger and they're very bright and they're very motivated. So reading chord symbols, that's fantastic. So, but yeah, you can water stuff down for your rhythm section if you need to. It's more about keeping a style, keeping the groove, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, and then you just build around. Yeah, you build around those lead players, kind of thing. You can usually take a chart and water it down enough, or edit it and cut it. Although it's harder to do today, I guess, with jazz championships and things like that, because now they're very like. I remember when like my first several years of bands. I mean, I was playing unpublished stuff and re-editing stuff and rewriting stuff, and like, you know, we would play like Manteca, but it didn't have that really cool section in the middle, so I took it and just wrote it out for piano and just gave it to him. I don't know if you can do that anymore, so for copyright things and stuff like that, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
it's a little different now.
Mhm.
But I'll take a lot of charts and make them fit the band better. Does that make sense?
And we've talked about that when you work our band.
Right.
Like we've
I mean,
definitely done
and
that.
I mean, you're not violating copyright if you're cutting and ending a chord someplace else. And
Mhm.
like, I don't know how they like this end. Let's take this and make that an ending, or
Yeah.
you know, or let's play this and then hop back to this. So we didn't rewrite it. We just had them go look and play another spot in a different spot. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that's an issue or not.
I
know.
don't think it's an issue yet.
So
They're
anyway.
not reading. Judges aren't reading
Right.
scores or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I mean, you can take and modify a chart too to work for you. I've taken charts and changed the bass line to Mike Disworth did that. You know, he got in the finals this year, jazz
Mhm.
championships, and the bass line was really cheesy.
Yeah.
And so he actually had the bass guy at UNI help him come up with a new bass line for the chart, because it was just so bad before. It was so off style. It was, I think, a Latin. You know, it might have been like
Latin.
Latin. Might
You know,
have
the one Latin style.
it
in
might have been.
jazz.
It would have been
Yeah.
in the Latin genre. It was probably a samba or something like
Right.
that, and it was the wrong kind of bass line to it.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So you know,
Mhm.
so that's the biggie, is programming for your students. You got to throw in some cheese sometimes, because sometimes that's what gets them excited and helps you play the legit stuff later on, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So you don't have to do all like educationally sound lit. I don't always do education. We played the final countdown at our last concert with my 7/8 jazz band. Digga da da,
Oh yeah.
digga da da da. You know, my drummer learned the opening. You know, Phil. You know, we opened it with gongs. You know, it's all black. The auditorium's all black. And then boosh, and all the lights come on the stage.
Wow.
Oh yeah, my kids had a blast doing that.
Awesome.
It was hilarious. So that really happened.
Gong into Final Countdown.
Yeah, da da. Yeah, it's like a rocket taking off. You know, it's like yeah. But we did play Splanky too, which is kind of a bassy style. I think it was an Estico arrangement, so
Mhm.
Yeah.
bassy style. So we balanced it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you gotta have some sugar in there.
Yeah. Do you balance like how much do you read versus like work on the charts that you're doing for?
I pick songs probably mostly for is it in our skill set
Mm-hmm.
and soloing. So we probably work, like a lot of times I'll go to the solo sections first on a chart, and we'll work the solo sections, and then we'll work backgrounds of the solo sections. Or we'll play long tones on the solo sections. Do you want to say that?
Mm-hmm.
I think I've done that when I've come over to your
Yeah,
group.
yeah.
I'd be like, okay, so like if it's not like if the chords aren't written in them for the band, step one is we make sure everybody has the chords. for the solo section.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because everybody improvises. In rehearsal, everybody improvises. Sometimes it's mass chaos improvising. Kevin Brown does the same thing. And keep in mind, he's got like 40-some kids in each one of his jazz bands.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go through the rhythm section will play, and everybody will improvise.
Same time.
Same time.
Yeah.
Mass hysteria.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll play something, and everybody will play back at me, and I'll play something. So we get that conversation going back and forth. We'll like trade twos or trade fours. And we do a lot of trading fours. And the reason we do a lot of trading fours is because they're listening for the chord changes, because that's how they know where they are. So we do a lot of trading fours. We do trading fours in performance as well as just in the classroom. We'll do this kid plays four, then the next kid plays four, then the next kid. That takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
But we probably spend, because it's a middle school, I can do this. We spend most of the time in the solo sections, if I can. The 1 year I couldn't do a jazz band because it was right after COVID and nobody wanted to do jazz band. It was weird.
Yeah.
I had like 3 drummers, a bass player, a good bass player, and like 5 horns. So we did jazz combo. I don't know, did you hear that group that year? I don't know if you did
I
or
think I
not.
saw you over at Belmont.
So we did jazz combo, and man, it was awesome. All we did was improvise. That's all we worked on. And the thing is, they didn't want to. We did head tunes, like out of the fake book,
Yep.
kind of stuff. I think I did 1 combo arrangement. Otherwise, we worked changes and stuff, and that was pretty awesome. And then, man, the next year, which would have been year before last, everybody wanted to improvise, which was great. So
Great culture.
yeah, if I had a scenario where I could just run multiple jazz combos, I think I would do that. So the downside is we're over prepping for the high school. We got way more rhythm section people than he can use.
Mm-hmm.
So and then if you got a drummer who wants to play in high school jazz band, but they didn't make the cut, then you're trying to keep them motivated to stay in, to give them opportunities to play.
Mm-hmm.
That can be hard, and then you might lose somebody, and I don't want to lose somebody. Like they just like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm like, no, that's not what we wanted. So I don't know. I got to be careful not to over prep. So like I'm not prepping a bass player right now. There's nobody who can play bass in my jazz band this year, so we're going to use keyboard bass.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a freshman bass player who's outstanding. So I can't send a bass player into the high school with, knowing that there's a beast right ahead of them. I'll probably start one next year. So there's some gap in there,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Kurt, do you have anything else for us?
I don't think so.
Well, thanks for coming on with us. And
Yeah.
I suppose I got to do the sign off.
Yeah.
Is there
It's a
is
thing.
it like a Three Amigos thing? Kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah? No?
I don't know what that is.
What? He doesn't know the Three Amigos sign off?
Gonna watch it tonight.
We'll have to watch it tonight. But
I'm a little disappointed.
yeah.
I don't know if I would have come over here for knowing that ahead of time. It's like, geez.
Do you know who's in Three Amigos?
No.
Oh, do you even know what the Three Amigos? Oh, he doesn't even know what it is.
I mean, it's 3 dudes, right?
It is.
It's true.
It's true. They're amigos.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could just say, that's it for the 3 amigos, me, Kurt, and Matt,
Yeah.
and the 4th amigo.
Oh, I'm the guest amigo.
Guest amigo.
Guest amigo.
Yeah.
Guess me go.
Guest amigo.
Guest amigo. This is Planet Band.